Hello and welcome to Monday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson.
Hello, Daniel.
Record Sport's Craig Swan. Swanee, how's it going?
Hi, Daniel. Hi, Keith. How are these boys? Okay?
Swanee, long time no see, mate.
Busy, mate. Very busy.
You're a Hotline Live stalwart, a favourite.
With whom?
Housewives.
Nah.
Aye, I mean, you've been on a bit of a, what's the word, Keith? Like a secondment. You were down at Ali Pali, weren't you, Swanee? I mean, how was that as an experience?
It was fabulous, yeah. It was really good, yeah. It was great, top class sport. It's brilliant. There's a whole sporting world out there, Daniel. It doesn't revolve around Scottish football.
You need to wear fancy dress, Swanee?
I know always. When you come as a bin man.
Refuse collector.
Yeah.
Have you got a darts nickname?
Let's not go there.
Okay.
No, of course I don't have a darts nickname, but I'm sure you'll be able to think of one just shortly. So that hence the fact I said let's not go there.
Listen, the darts was great, but I would still maintain that Scottish football is the be all and end all.
Yes, it is.
We start a week, Keith, that's set to be season defining.
It's a big week, isn't it? I'm actually really looking forward to it. We've got a Dundee derby in the Scottish Cup tonight, which I really like, the Dundee derby. And as I said the other night, I think the both of them are playing some right good football. I think that'll be a cracker. And then, of course, on to Europe Wednesday, Thursday. Celtic, I fully expect to clinch a place in the playoff stages of the New Look Champions League by beating Young Boys on Wednesday night. And then you get this really interesting one on Thursday at Old Trafford. So basically, you've got Celtic versus the worst team in this season's Champions League to claim a place in the playoffs, and Rangers versus the worst Man United side of all time. Not my words, the words of Ruben Amorim, the Manchester United manager. So it's all set up, isn't it, for a really intriguing few days.
Why does that almost fills me with more fear than if they were playing like the top teams? I mean, is that I don't know if that's a Scottish thing, Swanee, or if that's
exactly what it is, Danny.
Aye.
That's exactly what it is. Decades of the hope killing you. It tends to be that we've all been there. We were there as recently as last summer with the Euros. It happens a lot, but no, the teams of Celtic and Rangers have done really well this year in Europe. Both of them results have been really good, and I don't see any reason for them not to go into this week's ties with optimism. Obviously, Celtic have got a terrific chance. We'll touch on it more in depth, I'm sure. And Rangers as well going to Old Trafford with Manchester United, by their own admission, in some disarray. So plenty to look forward to, as Keith says.
On the Celtic front, Arne Engels has been talking today, and he is in very confident mood, it seems, ahead of Wednesday's game. Some of the things he had to say, he said, I think we all feel that we belong to the knockout stages and we will do everything to go there. Everybody's really looking forward to it like normal. It's a Champions League game, a really important game for us. It's a big opportunity, but we already played some games here. It's a big opportunity to take 3 points. It's a really big game coming up, and I think that next week already we are looking forward to, but now we are fully focused on the game against Young Boys. He also predicted that it will be a crazy night on Wednesday night. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for Celtic fans.
No, that's good. I think that, the more this gets talked up, the better. It's a real opportunity for Celtic. You want the fans turning up at Parkhead and taking the noise levels up to 11. You want that crackling electricity in the night sky under the lights. You want Young Boys who are absolutely scunnered with this competition to think this is something we could do without here. There's nothing for them to play for. You just want it to be hostile, noisy, in your face, and hopefully that's like an adrenaline shot to the Celtic side that have been looking a bit leggy. Look as if they've kind of come through as they have done, a real heavy fixture list, but you're just hoping that the return to Europe, this massive opportunity, just ignites the whole thing, lights a fire under it. And I genuinely think if that's the case and Celtic approach the game as I fully expect them to, right on the front foot, early doors, getting really setting a tempo, I think they'll win, and I think they'll win comfortably, and I think it'll be a great night.
Swanee, as Keith says, look, if Celtic were hand-picking an opponent, it would be Young Boys. I know you've been at a fair few of the European games this season. I mean, do you share Keith's optimism that they will get the job done?
Yeah, I think Celtic have been good in the Champions League this season in a variety of ways. Barring Dortmund, obviously. The first game they were expansive, confident when outplayed, hammered Bratislava. The Leipzig game is as good a Celtic performance at that level as we've seen, maybe, in terms of actual football. And then Bruges was completely different, where, listen, I know it was a wee while ago, but we talked about it prior to the game. People getting a wee bit carried away and turning up expecting Bruges just to be swatted in a Leipzig style. And they were good, Bruges. And they put in Celtic, didn't hit their levels, and they were asked some serious questions. And I think what was impressive that night was the way they didn't fold, they didn't go under when they were in big trouble. And they managed to dig themselves out and get. So they've actually found different ways to get results. I mean, nobody would have thought at the beginning of the season, nobody would have thought walking away from the Dortmund game that they could produce the type of performance they did in Bergamo to dig in and get the points. So they've found different ways to win, but it's get results. But as Keith suggests, it's maybe going back to the start here, the sort of swagger that they took into the Bratislava game, and take that into the game. I get the feeling with Celtic, pretty much since I was in Zagreb, the minute that everybody walked out of the stadium that night, there was a big circle around this night. And Celtic have had very important things to deal with, a cup final against Rangers and league games, and you have to make sure you keep doing the business. But it almost felt like, in some ways, box ticking, right? You just got to deal with this bread and butter, just deal with it, almost as if this is where the season reignites. This is the night where they've been sort of building towards. And just listening to those comments from Arne Engels today, that would suggest that they're ready to kind of explode back into it. And I just hope they do. I hope it's not they don't take, stage fright's the wrong word, but there's any nervousness about them. I hope they do go in with that swagger. I would take issue with what Keith says about young boys having nothing to play for. I do understand the situation in the Champions League, but they've just appointed a new manager.
Yeah, I know, but they're all over the shop, Swanee. The results domestically.
Yeah, and that was another terrible result of the weekend, drawn at home in his first game. Against a team right down, could even be at the bottom of the table, I think. But so they'll have players with points to prove to the manager, and if not in terms of qualification. But listen, I would agree with you. I would agree with both of you when you say if you could have picked one team to be playing at home, this would have been the game you would have picked. So Celtic, they'll go in with that swagger.
I think they will, Swanee. I tell you, and I think
Slava game, and I do think Keith, I do think they'll be building it. I do think they're building back up towards that. Maida back in, Kuhn back in after missing games, Kygo looking alive again. I think they're building to it.
Yeah, I see. When you're right, Swanee, when you say that they've found different ways of accumulating 9 points so far in this campaign, and I think Brendan Rodgers, and he'll hate me for saying it, but showed a pragmatic side after Dortmund. That he, despite saying that he would never change, he did change. He tightened things up. Certainly in the centre of midfield, he made Celtic more difficult to play through. It was everything that Celtic have been crying out for so long, and I think there's been glimpses of that again. Zagreb away. I know that some people thought Zagreb away was a missed opportunity. Maybe it was, but I'm always pleased to see a Scottish side getting a result, even as a point away from home on the road in Europe, particularly the Champions League, is good. But I feel, Swanee, that he will take the same approach that he wanted to take to Dortmund. He'll take it into this one at home to Young Boys. The same approach that he had with the Bratislava game.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it will be very reminiscent and based upon what you're used to seeing Celtic do domestically in terms of the way the team will be set up. I don't think he'll be overly cautious on this. I don't think there'll be a handbrake on. And I think it'll be, the chat before the game will just be, this is an opportunity to go out there and seize it, boys.
I also think, Keith, that in the last couple of games I've noted a maturity in the way they've gone about things. The reason I say that is the Bruges game 2 games ago, when Dyson Maida equalised from a game where Celtic were really, really under the pump. Bruges were excellent in the first half. And Celtic got themselves level. But I didn't feel with 15 minutes to go there was the cavalry charge to go win it. You almost sensed that the players realised themselves, we might adopt one here. Let's make sure that if I think was it Lazio last season where they got sucker punched right
Yeah,
at the
right at the end, yeah.
chasing to win a game and ended up getting sucker punched and lost it. And I also think, to your point from Zagreb, yes, I understand that, Keith. A lot of people did think it was a chance missed. Being at the game, I mean, the local guys and the Croatian boys that were there were saying, oh, basically the whole team's missing and there's youth players and Celtic should be running right here. But I also thought with 20 minutes to go in that game that they kind of thought, okay, let's not go nuts here. A point away from home is fine for the end objective. And I just thought that was a kind of maturity that you're starting to see seep into the team, which is a very good signing. Yeah. But like I do think that maturity will allow them to then go in with some confidence on Wednesday to know that there's nothing to be frightful of here. We're all right here. We can go play in the front foot and we'll be okay. And if something goes wrong early in the game, we've shown against Leipzig, we know how to deal with it. See, we can go a goal down and we don't panic. We can get ourselves back in it.
See as well, Keith, I think it's worth making the point. I mean, you mentioned Swanee, Bruges at home. Bruges got to the semi-final of the Conference League last season, the quarter-final of the Champions League 2 seasons ago. I mean, this is a serious outfit, and Zagreb away from home, as you say, Swanee, like any point away from home in the Champions League, you can't turn your nose up at it. I mean, D-Man says here in the comments, if Celtic get a result tomorrow, 1 loss at 7 Champions League matches, I mean, that underlines the progress that Brendan Rodgers has made this season, I think. I mean, that's a really good record. Yeah,
and listen, people get annoyed when people talk about, when other people talk about the changes in the competition, and it is slightly different. You know, you don't have say a top seed like a Real Madrid that you may have played twice by now, and you're struggling to get a point. Everybody gets that, but it's not like you're getting into some tadpole league of Europe. You know, you're still playing good teams, as you've just pointed out about Bruges. And I remember thinking specifically prior to that game. Again, I reference it once more. We spoke about it a lot before the game because Celtic played so well against Zagreb. They just expected to turn up and obliterate Bruges, and it wasn't never going to happen. And I don't think the players thought that for any minute, but if they did, within about 5 minutes of the game, they had the shock of their lives because Bruges were basically keeping the ball for fun, and Celtic couldn't keep it. So you realise pretty quickly that every game's dangerous. And listen, young boys will have players in there that can cause a problem if Celtic don't do their jobs properly. If Celtic do their jobs properly, you would expect them to step onto the game and win it well, and that's what everybody's hoping for.
Are you concerned, Swanee, in any way about Kyogo's form? And you, I think you said there you felt he's starting to pick it up again.
I'm not. No, I'm not. Not currently. I thought his goals in Dingwall 3 games ago were excellent. He was obviously operating a wide area at Dens Park in the game after that. He didn't score on Saturday against Kilmarnock, but he's responsible for the 2 goals. You actually watch the build-up of the goals. He's the one who shows for Carter Vickers, pops it off to Callum McGregor, then people criticise the Kilmarnock defence for not getting out to Callum McGregor. Watch it again, it's Kygo's run, they don't know whether to come or not, and then they don't, and the ball's in the net. And then he shows and plays in Kuhn, turns and runs 40 yards, and he actually causes that hesitation again, which kind of draws Lewis Mayo in a wee bit, and all of a sudden, Maida's free. Yeah. So he's doing things within the team that are actually helping, and he looks busy, and he looks lively, and he looks alive. And I've just got a feeling that for 3.5 years, when it's come to the real big crunch, key cup finals games, one man stepped up. I've got a feeling it could be him on Wednesday.
And we mentioned as well that, I mean, look, Celtic need him because Adama isn't really pulling up any trees at the minute, is he? I think it's no goals in 12 games now. So
we've talked about this. He looks as if he's been drained of confidence, doesn't he? Big Adama, and I've said about him since I started. You know, since he first arrived in Glasgow, he looks like one of these players that is and I know that. There's an argument that most strikers can be streaky. He looks particularly kind of susceptible to that quality, whereby, you know, if one goes in, he'll probably go off on a run. But right now, he kind of looks as if he's playing with the weight of the world on his shoulders. Maybe, you know, this is an opportunity. I think Kyogo will start, obviously. But if things go Celtic's way, if they get right on top of this, if they sicken the Swiss opponents, and stamp their superiority on this, you might be looking at your bench with half an hour to go. And, maybe in a night like that, it's all set up for Adama to come off the bench to get a goal and kind of kickstart the season a little bit. So yeah,
Bratislava, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly what happened.
I'm, look, I think he's really struggling for form, but it seems to me to be more a confidence thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we've used the cliche before, but if one flies in off his backside, maybe that could be the catalyst for him. But yes, he looks like a player that's desperate for something to happen, and certainly it makes the decision, because obviously earlier in the campaign, I think it was Atalanta away, Adama was the first pick, and it was a good selection by Brendan Rodgers because it gave Celtic a focal point. Knew they were going to get penned in and have long spells without the ball. Mm-hmm. That gave them a landing strip to get up the pitch, big Adama, and he was great in the match. And there were subsequent games around then where there was actually a debate who starts. There's no debate who starts this one. Yeah. Even if Kyogo's not in blistering form right now, he's absolutely first pick for the centre forward duties, that's for sure.
Dennis Mirren, who I believe is a regular Rangers fan, points out that Celtic is probably the last chance to get points.
A regular Rangers fan? Can you get irregular ones?
I mean, he regularly contributes. He says that Celtic won't get any points at Villa. I would contest. I think Celtic at their best could definitely give Villa a game, but that will be at the forefront of Brendan Rodgers' mind. Look, get it done on Wednesday.
So you don't want to go to Villa needing something. You don't.
Exactly.
Even though Villa are pretty much home and hosed now in terms of getting through, and qualifying probably in the top 8. Is it top 8, top 12? How's it work?
It's top 8. Aye.
So Villa look good for that, and might even have that tied up before Celtic come to town, and then you don't know what you're going to get. Maybe Villa will play a sort of weakened side, and maybe that gives Celtic a better opportunity. But I wouldn't want to be going into that game thinking I need to take anything from this, because Unai Emery's top-notch European elite level manager. He's got a lot of really, really good players, and even if he did send out a side that was significantly weaker than what he would put out in the Premier League on the weekend, it'll still be talented, top heavy with talent. So yeah, I mean, this is it. And Swanee said this next game for Celtic has been circled. There's been a ring round it since Zagreb. I actually think this is one. There was a ring round it right from day one when the fixture list came out. This was one of the winnable ones. And if you look at it, Celtic, the Leipzig performance was different class, no doubt about it, and perhaps unexpectedly good. But Leipzig and Bratislava and Young Boys are the 3 teams at the bottom of a 36-team Champions League group right now. Mm-hmm. So the fixtures have been kind to Celtic, but you've got to make the most of that. And I fully expect. Michael Gannon was on the other night, and he was a bit humming and hawing and kind of worried that this is a game that's a ready-made banana skin. I don't see it like that. I just see it as a brilliant opportunity for Celtic to sort of put the tin lid on what's been a really good campaign, make the most of the hard work they've done to get themselves to this point. I don't think they'll let it slip them by. I really don't.
Just to finish in Celtic, William Sloan writes in saying, I think we are in danger of overpraising what small progress there has been. Can't make a judgment of the campaign without judging the teams we were against, 2 of which don't have a point. Look, he's not wrong, but I think where Celtic would really show that they have progressed is in the knockout rounds. I mean, I think I'm right in saying the last 2-legged knockout tie Celtic won in European, proper European football. Was it Barcelona in 2004?
I think that's right.
Qualifiers aside, they've not. I mean, that is for a club Celtic size. That is criminal. That is mad.
Yeah, I think they're making. I think they're making progress. I think that's maybe a fair point that's been made. That you gauge who you're playing against, and of course you do. You take all these things into account. I just look at games like the Bruges game and the Zagreb game. They lose those 2 games last season, or even the season before. They lose them through naivety. They get the equaliser against Bruges, they go charging on and they give a goal away at the other end. In Zagreb, they fold and they lose a goal or something daft happens. one of those games where you really, in the 70th minute, you lose a goal. Listen, I've seen it with Scottish teams for all down the years, especially Celtic, especially away from home, that they can somehow manage to turn a game when they're a right foothold in. You're thinking Celtic could go on and win this, and the next thing they've lost it.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking, how did that happen? And you kind of go, I know how that happened, because it's what they always do and shoot themselves in the foot. They didn't do it. They weren't good that night, but they didn't lose. So I think that's them making progress. I think that tells them they can go away, and even if they're not their best, they can at least get some out of the game. That's progress for a start. Mm-hmm. So I think they are making their way along. I'm not suggesting for a second that if Celtic had their first 4 fixtures were Atletico Madrid, PSG, Real Madrid, you know, whatever, and they would have had 7 points. I'm not saying that. We all know the fixtures work in a different way for different teams. We know that. But Celtic can only deal with the hand they've been given. Yeah. And they've done well so far. And I think it's childish for people to pick at it if that's what they choose to do. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think they're making strides, and like they're, to use Keith's phrase, they're accumulating points as they go along. Yeah, that's progress. They haven't done that.
There's definitely a quirkiness about this format, which has allowed Celtic this opportunity. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But they've taken advantage of that. And the bottom line is, Swanee.
Sorry to break in. We spoke before the Leipzig game. It's Leipzig's first 3 opponents, not Atletico Madrid, Liverpool, Juventus or somewhere. They had a ridiculous start. Yeah. So it's not quite as simple as to say, well, they've got no points, they're not very good. You know,
and by the way, that's what made the performance and the result against Leipzig so impressive, because that was a real live match for Leipzig. They turned up there knowing they had to get a result.
Yeah. And I think Celtic
were able to deal with that.
Yeah, I think Scott McDermott called that one spot on the night. Actually, I actually thought it was a big flashing warning sign for Celtic that night. That would be a game that Leipzig would have circled. We need to get points out of this. Mm-hmm. Scott actually made the point that night. He said, "Yeah, but that might show in Leipzig that that might stress them. This is the one that they need to get something out of." And whether that played a part in the way they were dominated, I don't know. But maybe it was twofold. But no, I just think you can pick through fixtures and. Oh, they've got that team. No one's arguing that Celtic have had a couple of home games that they would have bitten your hand off for. But that's just the way it goes.
Still need to win, no?
They still need it, and the beauty of it is that, you know, I don't know, 2 months' time, is anybody going to be looking back and going, but their fixtures were that? No, they're not. You're going to be looking at that Champions League table right now, and what the Champions League table tells you is that Celtic are currently sitting above Man City and PSG. Mm-hmm. And level on points with Real Madrid. So, you know, you can be churlish, as Craig says there, and look to pick holes and things. But the bottom line is the table's sitting there. That's what it is. This is this year's competition. And as things stand, Celtic are in a brilliant position.
Yeah. Well, look, Celtic against Young Boys isn't the only big game in Europe this week. Rangers, of course.
Dundee Derby as well.
Dundee Derby tonight. Actually, very good point, Keith. Dundee Derby tonight.
All the way from Dundee, though.
all the way from Tayside.
all the way from Dundee. Yeah, that's going to be an absolute cracker. Actually, it's always a cracker, the Dundee Derby. But Rangers, they're off to Old Trafford in Europa League on Thursday. Connor Barron has been talking about how it's a dream to play at Old Trafford, and let's hear what he had to say.
Obviously, they're top side, and yeah, we're positive. We look forward to the game, and we've got to go and do a job on Thursday, and hopefully we can go and do it.
What is it about the Europa League style that seems to suit this team a bit more than perhaps some of the domestic games do?
Sorry?
What is it about the Europa League that seems to bring out the best in this team that seems to suit you a bit better than perhaps some of the Premiership games?
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. We've done well in Europe, and we need to start getting our run going in the league as well, which we've done over the past few weeks. So yeah, it's just about taking each game as it comes and making sure we're fully prepared, and yeah, we'll do that.
The way the team's performed in the Europa League over several seasons, not just this season, does that mean that there's no fear going into that type of game on Thursday?
Yeah, there shouldn't be a fear going into any game. You've got a job to do as a professional football player to go out there and play the best you can and play for the jersey, and that's what we're going to do on Thursday.
You almost get a relish the opportunity to go there. It'll be a huge night for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. It's one you dream of as a kid. Just like you do pulling on the shirt, and yeah, as I say, it's another game, so yeah, we look forward to it, and yeah.
kind of big day today for Cyril. Obviously, he's kind of not sure what his future lies. Would you love to see him stay there and score more goals for this club?
Cyril's been brilliant, and again today he gets a bit of confidence. He's got his 3 goals and assists, so all the boys are buzzing for him, and we know how good a player Cyril is, and it's great to see him.
You've obviously been playing regularly yourself through this season, but found yourself out of the team a wee bit. What sort of challenge do you have to do in order to get your head yourself ahead? Dio, Nico, they've been playing ahead of you.
Yeah, no, it shows the competitiveness in the squad. It's great to see. And yeah, it's football sometimes. Sometimes you're in, sometimes you're out, and you've just got to deal with it. And as I say, you've got a job to do as a Rangers player. You've got to be on it every day. So you've got to train even harder. You've got that extra desire, and it's brilliant to have that within the group. That's what you need, and that's how you're going to become a top side.
Obviously, there was your tribunal fee get set a few weeks ago. Is that something you pay any attention to? Is it something that you feel extra pressure, having seen the sort of amount of money that's been bandied about?
No, not at all. It's not. It's done above me. I just concentrate on what I've got to do day to day, and that's my job.
Connor, when the changes came in the second half for some of the younger guys coming on, especially in the midfield, Bailey Rice, do you feel an added kind of pressure to maybe help them through the game? Do you obviously have had a wee bit more first team experience across Rangers and previously Aberdeen, with these younger guys coming in? Do you feel like you could step up and be a leader for them?
Yeah, definitely. It's brilliant to see the young boys getting their opportunity on the pitch, and they're taking it today as well. Bailey Rice and Finlay as well, I thought he was brilliant. Is that lovely? So all of them that came in. So no, it was good to see. And yeah, as I've said before in previous interviews, I like to be a leader on the pitch. I like to do my best I can, and whether that's putting arms around their shoulder or making sure they're doing things properly, that's just what you've got to do.
Let me hit you with this, guys. Paul Downey on Facebook. Thursday should be called El Sacico. Rangers are 7-1 to win. No one should be that priced to beat Man United. They are absolutely horrific. It's a really odd game going into this, Keith. I don't even know how to approach it. Who'll win?
There's so many imponderables and uncertainties going into it because you just don't know what Manchester United are going to turn up. You don't know how seriously Manchester United are treating the Europa League this season. It's not as if they don't have the problems to work through on the domestic front. Amarim is kind of all over the place at the minute, and it's, to such an extent that earlier on today I was listening to some stuff. People are debating about whether or not it's time to sack him, which is just
mad, but
astonishing. Astonishing. But quite clearly, Amarim has an idea about how he wants his Manchester United team or any team that he manages to play. And I think it seems pretty obvious, even from this far away, that the players that he's inherited don't seem to be able to play the system that he's asking or enforcing upon them. They seem unhappy. The amount of egos around about that dressing room is frightening. And I said, I kind of hinted towards this the other night. I think Manchester United have a habit of, right, do you know what? They raised their game when they went to play Liverpool. They raised their game going to Arsenal. I think there's some of these players might see this as all a bit beneath them. Mm-hmm. And that would certainly, I'd be praying for that if I was Philip Clement, because Rangers have shown, especially in Thursday nights in this particular competition, that they can give anybody a game in the Europa League, and they've done it. It's not just freakish, the odd kind of freak result here and there. They've done it consistently over season after season after season. I think if Manchester United are feeling sorry for themselves, if Amarim makes a load of changes, which he might well do, because the weekend's result against Brighton was another horror story for him, I think Rangers do have an opportunity. I think they should go down there smelling a bit of blood. And Rangers, if they perform to the levels that they have done in Europe this season, I don't think there's any reason why they can't come away from Old Trafford with a result. A draw would be a brilliant result for them. Mm-hmm. A win would be even better, obviously. But I look at it, Clement hasn't helped himself. We've talked about this in terms of the squad that he selected for the European campaign. There's no Haji in it, which limits his attacking options. I don't know if Danilo would have been fit anyway. But he has got this template, which I would be tempted to, if I was him, to go with anyway for this one, with Connor Barron and Raskin sitting at the base of the midfield, Diomande a little bit further forward, loads of legs, loads of energy to get about the pitch. And if Man United's players don't fancy it and don't fancy the physical side of it and don't fancy matching the effort levels that Rangers bring to the table, I think they'll struggle. And that seems to me to be the story of this Manchester United team. There's a lot of bad body language, you know. Marcus Rashford obviously can't get anywhere near it right now, but, you know, people were highlighting his unwillingness to chase people down, to get after the ball. And I think that's I think it's extrapolated out across the entire squad. I think Man United players look as if they're not really all that fussed. Yes, they'll raise their game because they're terrified of getting a real doing at Anfield or at the Emirates. But how motivated are they going to be for this game? Maybe the fact that the manager's just called them the worst Manchester United team of all time might light a fire under them, but I'm not so sure.
Why would he? I mean, do you think that's why he said that? Because
there has to be a reason.
Aye, because I mean,
I don't know if he's trying to take the heat off himself by doing it, or if he's trying to put the heat on the players.
That was how it came across to me.
Aye.
Yeah, what am I supposed to do here, guys?
What am I supposed to do with this lot?
Look, Robert on Facebook says, all jokes aside, it'll be embarrassing for Man United if they don't win at home. They spent hundreds of millions. I don't see it that way, Swanee. I think Keith's right. I think if a Rangers player, like, they've got every chance of getting a result on Thursday night, I think.
Yeah, I think that there's Rangers away from home in different competitions. It's just a puzzle. And everyone knows, we've talked about the domestic form away from home. Home form's cracking, domestically away from home. Well, yet they step away from home in Europe and just look pretty composed, pretty organised, pretty confident, look as though they know what they're doing. Everything, you know, players seem to play above themselves. Rangers on the road in Europe this year have been really good. And you can hark back to the recent seasons and they've performed well in Europe in recent seasons as well, Rangers. But, you know, it's not the same players, it's a different team. And they seem to cope with it no problem. And yet they go to grounds domestically and they don't do. I mean, even look at the exit from the Champions League. It wasn't the away performance that was the problem. It was when they got back to Glasgow. So Rangers are perfectly capable of going away and imposing themselves on the game and not sort of falling to bits in the opening 20 minutes and anything like that. And I think if they get a foothold in the game, which they've shown in various away trips in Europe that they're perfectly capable of doing, they're against a team who, if they're not 1-0 up on Rangers inside 15, 20 minutes, you'll already feel it turning, I would imagine. Not being someone who's in Old Trafford every week, but I'd imagine they won't be happy if they're not winning the game early doors. And Rangers can really capitalise on that. I think Rangers have got absolutely nothing to fear going there. Nothing to fear. It's
a great point, Swanee. The atmosphere inside that stadium is going to be, I think it's going to feel quite surreal.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's reached that. I don't cover games there, Keith, and we don't cover games, so I don't know if it's reached apathy stage yet. And I think then it's not too bad. It's almost not toxic because people can't be bothered. But if it's still in the period of toxicity, Rangers will easily go in and settle into a game in the first 20 minutes and have that place on fire.
Well, what's the record? Is that Man United lost? Has Amrabat not lost 5 straight at Old Trafford now?
He's lost 4 at Old Trafford since he took
4 straight. Or 4 since he took over. But listen, the natives will not be taking this well at all. Now, maybe there will be a bit of apathy because, well, it's only Rangers, it's only the Europa League. But I think Swanee's right. I think if Rangers can kind of set their own tempo in this match and kind of take it to Manchester United and maybe hit them on the break the way that they kind of try to sucker Celtic into traps in the 2 recent derby matches. I think if they can get a bit of joy, I would expect the atmosphere to become pretty horrible down there. And that can really help because if there's Man United players that don't know if they really fancy this and they're not very happy about the manager's just said, and then the fans start giving them pelters, it could the stars could align for Rangers on Thursday night. And do you know what? The stars often align for Rangers on Thursday nights, don't they?
See, I know we don't specialise in English football, but just very quickly, what's your guys' thoughts on Amarin? Do you think, your gut feeling, do you think he'll get the time? Do you think he has the man to turn Man United around?
Well,
big question.
But well, you know, Ineos fired the guy that they waited to get from Newcastle for I don't know how long after 3 months, didn't they, as the sporting director, which shows that Jim Ratcliffe clearly will make decisions that he feels, even difficult ones, he won't be slow in making them if he feels it's in the best interest of the club. what I would think is that his reputation is on Amarim as well, because they made a big deal about selecting him, going and getting him. I think Amarim wanted to come at the end of the season. He didn't want to come in mid-season for probably the exact reasons that you're seeing here. So I think having pushed the boat out to get him in and make such a big deal about that, I think they're sort of duty bound to kind of stick with him. But I don't know how long this can go on.
Keith, I might have got this wrong. You'll probably know this because you're pretty well versed on Liverpool. Liverpool want him before Arne Slot.
He was a name. He was a name. Yes, he couldn't
get him. He didn't want to leave at that time, and that's why they moved attentions. I must admit, I couldn't help but thinking when I saw the name originally, it was like someone else had done the homework for them. And it's like, Liverpool want to do. He must be decent. They did great with Klopp, but look, we'll go get him. I didn't see a CV there that made me think, jump out straight Manchester United.
Interesting.
He had great success with Sporting Lisbon, and his Sporting Lisbon side played some terrific football. But it's interesting, isn't it? I think he got the Sporting Lisbon gig after doing really well with Braga. And isn't it right that Rangers were the only side to defeat him in Europe while he was at Braga? There's some crazy thing, but I think Rangers beat them home and away. So there's another thing.
Manchester United had tried the name, hadn't they? They tried the name and the established guy, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho. They tried that, and I think now is obviously the attempt to go for the younger, progressive, forward-thinking young European coach. But listen, we go back to the discussions we've had ad nauseum about Philippe Clement, and Manchester United can't even be contemplating this guy leaving. They have to be just being patient and give him what he needs. There's no point in going to that fuss to get a hold of the guy and then not actually giving him the tools that he needs to do his job.
And maybe that's where he provided himself with a bit of a safety net there, Swanee, by just coming out, as you said there, just saying, look, what is this? This is murder.
Listen, Keith, you mentioned Marcus Rashford. Again, I don't profess to be an expert on Manchester United, but I remember watching a game, it must have been about 3 seasons ago. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might have been in charge. When Bruno Fernandes, the captain, somebody just walked past him on the touchline and he just wrapped it. He just started walking. And the pundits were going crazy afterwards. I can't believe it. How can you be the Manchester United captain if you do that? He's still the Manchester United captain 3 years later.
Oh, they're in a bad way. There's no doubt about it.
How can that be? But
listen, in many ways, Rangers are going through a sort of Man United kind of period themselves, aren't they? With the turmoil. And it's ongoing turmoil behind the scenes. I know they've got Patrick Stewart, but funnily enough, Patrick Stewart jumps in from the fire at Old Trafford into the frying pan at Ibrox.
Yeah.
And he's looking at all these similar sorts of problems where Man United have been firing managers and stockpiling players from every different manager along the way. And it ends up with this mismatch in the dressing room of guys that were signed by this one and other guys signed by that one. It's a very similar set of problems that Clement is dealing with at Rangers right now. And there are question marks over both managers. But I tell you what, Clement would go a long way to making his kind of position with the Rangers support a bit stronger. I'm not saying he'd be able to cement it, but he'd make it a bit stronger if he could come back up the road with a decent result and a good performance at Old Trafford. No doubt about that.
Can you see all the water that's gone under the bridge this season? And all the discussions that we've had and all the things we've talked about. And if you go way back to the start of the season, we basically said, look, this might have to be a season where Rangers fans have to suffer a wee bit for the long-term gain. And it was, can they see signs? Can they see something? And we've talked back and forward about, no, there hasn't been enough. A lot of people have decided that's not it. If you start getting results at Old Trafford, there's going to be inconsistency because you're changing the team all the time. You're trying to bed in a new team. But you said, like, for the long-term good, it might work. If you can beat Rangers at New Year, like has happened, if you can win at Old Trafford, it's at least little marker points where you can say, look, there is something there. I am capable of doing this. Well, just a wee bit more time and some more pieces in the jigsaw, and I'll show you. But so I think games like this, I think Thursday night could be a massive game for Clement. Clement goes to Old Trafford and wins. Now, it's not good enough for Rangers to be beating Celtic and then dropping points in subsequent games straight away. We all know that. But if what he's saying is he's trying to build a team up, you at least need something to work with, and big results would be something to work with. And Thursday would be massive. I think Old Trafford win a game like that would be a massive result for him. I think it's a big game for Philip. Come on, I think we buy him a lot of grace.
Yeah, listen, I agree, and I don't think it's beyond him. And I look at, for example, Igaman, and this boy looks as if he fears no one or no occasion. I think he'll relish the opportunity to go down there and showcase, what he's got on that sort of stage.
If he wasn't relishing it, all I had to do was watch Match of the Day last night, and he would have been
mate.
It's all bright, running through chasms.
So what an opportunity for him against that Man United defence to go there and show what he can do. And you talk about big results. They got a big result against Spurs. That was a big result for Rangers. They got a terrific result away to Nice. So, there is enough there to say they seem to know what they're all about, whether it's at home, away from home, in this competition. Yeah, listen, I'm really hopeful for both Celtic and Rangers going into this week. I think Rangers would be delighted with a point. I think that's probably going to be enough. But it doesn't mean to say that they can't do better than that. And I think Celtic, as I've said, and I'll continue to say right up until kick-off time, hopefully I won't be proven wrong, I think that Celtic will grab this tie by the scruff of the neck and have it won nice and comfortably. So, yeah, and if we got two results like that, once again for Scottish football, brilliant for the reputation of our game, great for the coefficient. It's just a feel-good story when your clubs are punching above their weight on the European circuit.
Last couple of little bits, guys, that I need to touch on before we wrap up. Dougie Stevenson writes in saying, get the Haji deal done now or we'll lose another player for nothing. This is obviously in reference to the fact his contract is up at the end of the season. He's been talking today, Keith. He says that he would welcome an offer from Rangers. Obviously, that's been tricky in the last few months. His deal. Do you anticipate he'll sign
again? That kind of speaks to what we were talking about there previously about Rangers aren't a really well-run club, or nowhere close to being a well-run club, and the contractual situation, the mess they made of the whole Jannis Haji thing was incredible from day one. I mean, we were coming back from the Euros and saying exactly that. This is the last guy from the SPFL that's standing in a major international tournament, and he goes straight into Rangers B team.
Captain his country.
Whatever price tag that he might have accrued or have hanging on him after that tournament was basically wiped out after a couple of weeks. Rangers made a complete mess of the Haji thing. You wonder if Patrick Stewart might provide a bit of sanity or if he can provide a bit of leadership in these negotiations. Jannis Haji has shown a determination and a professionalism all the way through this to get himself back in, to get himself back playing. He's been a model professional. And I think, Rangers have got a player in Haji, and I know he's not the fastest over 5-10 yards, and that kind of counts against him, but he's a proper football player, and Rangers are a better team with Jannis Haji in it. Why wouldn't you want to sit down and see if you can negotiate a contract with him? It'd be madness not to do that. But then this is Rangers. They are prone to making very wonky, strange, odd decisions.
The other thing is, Keith, given the way the situation's been allowed to unfold and where Jannis Haji is now in his contract, what did Rangers have to offer him to get him to sign one?
Aye, that's a fair point.
That's the problem.
Aye.
And his representatives are well within their rights to say we want big buck, major buck, and then do you saddle yourself that? Listen, in an ideal world, for Rangers, these mistakes have been made. You manage to somehow get Jannis Haji to agree a reasonably low-wage deal or a half-decent or even what he's on just now, and then you can still sell him in the summer once you've tied him down for 2 years. Clubs do that all the time. They get players to sign a contract just before they're going to sell them in the modern world because the contract length is elongated and it commands you a bigger fee. But unfortunately, the horse is bolted with Jannis Haji, I think, on that one. I don't think they can do that. I think what happens now, if there is a contract to be negotiated, he's going to be able to demand top dollar just because of the way this thing's done and the fact he's going to be a free agent on his own soon. So he holds the cards here.
Yeah.
So I think this is one where, I was going to say this is one where the lesson should be learned. There's probably about 10 before it as well. Exact same things happened. Rangers have to buck up and learn their lessons on this one. And I think they have, to be fair, the message from Philip Clement seems to have been that, well, he was shouting it, wasn't he, earlier in the middle of last year at the end of the season? How can so many players be allowed to walk out the door for free? How can that happen? That just can't happen again.
No.
Do you know where they might just get a little bit lucky with Haji in particular, or specifically Swanee, is the character of the boy. You know, other players wouldn't have reacted the way that he reacted, responded as positively as he responded.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah,
I genuinely think that he's happy. I think that he's settled. I think that he enjoys being a Rangers player. That could win half a battle for Rangers in terms of trying to sit him down and look at what the next stage is for him in his development. I think he's happy, and I think he enjoys being around this environment. And I don't think that he's particularly money motivated. Of course, everybody's a professional. You're always looking to get the best deal you can. But I think he's proven himself that when it came right down to it, I don't know if he deferred part of his contract just to enable him to get back into the first team picture. But that tells you a lot about his character and his motivation. And Rangers could get lucky, but Rangers could get lucky and still make a mess of it because that's Rangers. But I think they've got by the standards that you see around that squad, Haji is one of the most special talents. He's a game changer. He's made such a difference to the way Rangers go about it in the attacking third over the last few weeks. I just genuinely don't think he'll be too hard to deal with. I don't think it's going to require anybody to bust the bank to put a contract in front of him that he'd be happy to consider.
Yeah. Just before we finish, guys, Rebel asking, will it be a win for Dundee tonight? Dundee Derby in the Scottish Cup. How do you see it going?
Cracking game. That the game that they had just recently was the games they've had all season have been terrific. To be honest.
Great derbies, the Dundee derbies, aren't they?
Both teams playing great, and there's a fearlessness about the two teams when they play as well. There's a caution that you sometimes get in derbies about worried about losing it. They just seem absolutely hell bent and going out.
It's just Jinx Evans holding a bob and just cracked into one another.
Yeah, one attention landed there. You were going to crack that. But no, I think it should be a good game. Hopefully, because it's a cup tie, it doesn't bring that kind of cautiousness in. That.
Well, look, if you guys...
you tap them, Swanee?
If you wouldn't mind getting off the fence, guys, that would be great.
Draw, mate. Always a draw. Always a draw. Draw half-time, full-time, collect.
Who's going to get through?
Please gamble responsibly.
But obviously, it will go to extra time penalties then, Swanee. Who will get through?
Doesn't matter. You've made your money by then.
It's a very fair point, Keith, to be fair.
Yeah, I like his style.
Who do you see it going?
I like them both. I maybe just get a wee feeling for Dundee United tonight, but it's marginal.
It's at Dens Park.
I think Swanee's right. I think they won't. It'll be close. It'll be close. So and it very possibly could go all the way. I don't know why. I've just got a wee feeling for United.
Follow my Ben tips, Keith. I mean, just look at the mansion. No, don't.
I just think with it being at Dens Park, that long trip for United could prove crucial.
All the way from paradise.
All the way from paradise. I've actually heard rumours they're doing it on foot, which is pretty mad. Right, I think that brings us to the end of Monday's, what are we called again? Hotline Live. I wish this was live, we could edit that out. This brings us to the end of Monday's Hotline Live with Record Sport.
Not a moment too soon, Daniel, for you. You're fading. I was
going to say, I've started to malfunction. Thank you so much for all the comments, as usual. We really appreciate the brilliant conversation going on in the comment section. Swanee, Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Daniel. All the best.
And we will be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, guys.